The struggle for Angola's independence wasn't just a story of anti-colonial resistance, it was a class war, a people's war, driven by students, workers, and women who refused to stay silent under the weight of Portuguese colonialism. For nearly 500 years, Angola was a colony of Portugal, but by the mid-20th century, it had become one of the most brutally exploited regions in Africa. The Portuguese settler elite controlled the land, the economy, and the political structure, while the vast majority of Angolans lived in poverty, working as forced laborers on plantations and in cities. At the top were Portuguese settlers and colonial administrators. Beneath them, a small class of assimilados, Africans granted limited rights in exchange for adopting Portuguese culture. And below them, the working class. Millions of Angolan peasants, miners, and factory laborers robbed of land, culture, and freedom. But it was from this oppressed base that resistance would rise. The students' ideas that ignite. It began with the students. In the 1940s and 50s, a wave of young Angolans began studying in Lisbon and other parts of Europe. There they encountered Marxism, Pan-Africanism, and revolutionary ideas. They questioned why their homeland remained in chains. These students returned to Angola and began forming clandestine study groups and political movements. They saw colonialism not just as racial oppression, but as a class system that needed to be dismantled. The workers, strikes and sabotage. In the cities, workers took these ideas and turned them into action. Strikes erupted across Luanda, Angola, and the diamond-rich Northeast. Plantation laborers sabotaged production. Port workers refused to unload ships. The colonial economy began to shake. Labor was the engine of colonial wealth, and the workers knew it. The Portuguese cracked down with arrests, torture, and mass killings. But the resistance had already spread beyond the cities. The women, silent strength, fierce resistance. Women were the unsung backbone of the independence movement. In rural villages, women hid freedom fighters, carried supplies through forests, and relayed messages past enemy checkpoints. In the liberation armies of the MPLA, FNLA, and UNITA, women served as soldiers, nurses, and political educators. But their role went beyond logistics and care. Women were ideological warriors, fighting patriarchy within the movement itself and demanding a new Angola that would liberate all classes, not just men. By 1961, after decades of class repression and rising agitation, the powder keg exploded. The Angolan War of Independence began. Fueled by workers, organized by students, and sustained by communities of women, the armed struggle tore into the colonial system. From the forests of Cabinda to the slums of Luanda, Angola was ablaze with revolution. On November 11, 1975, Angola declared its independence. But the class struggle didn't end there. What followed was a brutal civil war, foreign intervention, and internal power struggles, raising the question, who truly benefits from liberation? The story of Angola's independence is not just about flags and borders. It's about people. People who fought not only to break colonial chains, but to rebuild a society where the laboring classes, the youth and women would no longer be forgotten. Because the revolution isn't over, it's just evolving. History is not made by great men. It is made by the people who refuse to be silenced. Subscribe for more Untold Africa.